This is David Diaz, former WBC lightweight champion of the world, and you're listening to The Grueling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Weekly. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. I want to welcome in my co-host, Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
I'm doing very well, Mike. Happy to be in. Always happy to be in. Let's talk some boxing, Mike.
Yeah, and we've got some very special guests today. We're going to start off first up, Adrian Peterson's manager, trainer, Barry Hunter.
How you doing?
How you doing tonight, Mr. Hunter?
I'm fine, thank you.
And we've got Rau'shee Warren here also. How you doing, champ?
How you doing, man? I'm doing fine.
All right, Jeremiah, I'll let you go ahead and open up the questioning.
Okay, well, first things first, of course, we just want to know how training camps have been going.
This is Barry. Training camp's been good, man. It's rare that we have a bad one. I can't really recall a bad one. For the most part, man, everything's going on all cylinders.
All right, Rau'shee, how's camp going for you? I heard you have a fight coming up with February the 10th.
Yeah. Like Barry said, man, we don't really have bad camps up here. Everything been going well. I've been sharp. I actually been on weight since probably about 2-3 weeks ago. I'm ready to fight right now, but it's February 10th, and I'm ready to defend my title, and show class some more of my talent, and let the world know that that Rau'shee Warren's still here and I'm still winning.
Well, I have a question here. Like I said, you are champion of the world. When you win a title like that, how much better does that make you confidence-wise? You hear a lot of guys talk about how they become like 10 times better just when they win that title. And you've got other guys that'll kind of go to their head, and it kind of almost destroys them where they're happy with what they got. It's a lot harder to stay there than it is to get there. So, what are you doing to make sure you stay the champion?
I can actually say that this training probably was harder than me fighting for a title, because, everybody want a gun for my title and want to, fight my title. Fight for my title, and I got to be prepared at all times because, I'm not fighting bums. I'm fighting mandatory fight. I was once a mandatory fight, and, I took the title from a champion. So I got to stay sharp at all times and be ready at all times. And I ain't even done yet, even though I got the title, at 14 fights, and I got a lot of more experience to go, and I'm looking forward to that. So around the 20, maybe 25 fights, I'll be a master at it. And right now I'm still learning and still picking up a lot on the sport, and I'm still using my craft and my experience, from the Olympics. So, like I say, come February 10th, it's showtime.
Right. No, and to piggyback on the Olympic thing, unfortunately, a lot of people don't pay attention to your amateur background, which was tremendous. It's one of the best any Americans ever had. You're the only American to go to the Olympics 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. And then as soon as you get out, you go into the WSB. And unlike a lot of Americans, you win every single fight you have in the WSB. Do you think the WSB, because we see a lot of amateurs coming out of the fight game now, and they're going into the WSB, which is almost seems like a semi-pro league. Vasil Lomachenko was in it. Many of the prospects from all over the world go into it before turning pro. Do you think that helped you quite a bit before going into the paid ranks?
Yes, it helped me a lot. I went 8-0 in that tournament, and when I first took off the headgear and put on an 8-ounce gloves and started fighting under the pro league, it was kind of, it was weird, kind of weird to me because I was so used to having a headgear and a shirt on and fighting under the amateur rules. And once I was with the LA Matadors and, I had my first pro fight, it's like I had all type of problems. My cup was too big, my shoes were too tight. All that mattered, going into the ring. And I was really thinking about that. And I was happy that, I got a lot of stuff like that out the way, going into my real professional pro fight after the Olympics. And it helped me a lot, fighting in that league because we didn't fight no bums at all. We was fighting, a lot of top fighters over the other countries that was, world champions that won medals and stuff like that. And they all came to fight, you know, and I ain't stopped nobody in that tournament, but I went the whole fight with each fighter that I got in the ring with. But it was a great fight every time I got in the ring.
All right, so where do you see yourself? I mean, do you see yourself moving up weight classes over the next couple of years, or do you think you're going to stay there and just kind of clean out the division?
That's the plan, you know, to clean out the division. But, you know, a lot of people these days, they like to take their little one belt and run with it and go up places with it and you know, don't really want to fight nobody like that. And I'm from the era where, you know, where we all, you know, where one person at that weight have all the belts, you know, and I want them all. I mean, we can meet somewhere and we can meet somewhere, you know, talk it out. And if, you know, we should be fighting, put our belts on the line. But after I handle this mandatory, then, you know, the people with the titles, you know, I want to shoot for them. I want to fight, you know, I want to see who the best is really at that weight class. But if not, then, you know, hopefully I have to go up and, you know, fight other fighters that's willing to fight me, and we're going to go from there.
All right. And I've actually seen your mandatory. A lot of people aren't familiar with the guys in the lower divisions in general, but I've seen him. I know he's trained Ricky Hatton, the former British fighter, and I've seen him again. He fights a lot like the guys from the former Soviet Union. He relies a lot on his right-hand power. His balance is pretty good. And I think he's a solid mandatory, but I think we all like hearing from you and from other fighters that you want the best of the best and you want to be the undisputed champion of the world. It's a bit unfortunate, you know, that because you fight at bantamweight, you don't get the hype that bigger fighters do. For instance, I like Errol Spence a lot. I think a lot of us do. But he doesn't, in terms of amateur credentials, he doesn't match yours. And do you agree with me in the sense that it's just a bit unfortunate that you don't get the hype only because you're a bit smaller?
Yeah, I think it could be that case. But, you know, I'm 14. I only got 14 fights in and being a world champion at 14 fights. So I feel like I got a lot of noise to make, you know, by these upcoming fights that's coming up, that whoever they put in front of me, you know, I got to knock them down. And I got to be real pressed. It ain't how you win. I ain't just trying to win. It's how I win. I'm trying to win, you know, by showing my show class of talent, just show them that, you know, these lower weight classes, you know, we work just as hard as the other weight classes, that's the other divisions that's out there. And like you said, you know, I feel like we don't get that much knowledge down there, but I'm looking to change that, you know, by being a different fighter I am. You know, put anybody in the ring with me, you know, I'm going to knock them down.
All right, so I'm going to switch a little bit. We're going to jump back over here to Barry, Mr. Hunter. It's great to have you on the show. Big-time privilege, I think. I think you're a hell of a trainer. And we see, when I was younger, through the 70s, the Olympic boxing was a big deal. International boxing anymore, though, doesn't seem to be what it was, especially for American fighters. Why do you think that is, and what do you think that can be done by the U.S. Amateur Association to upgrade basically what's going on in amateur boxing?
I think you gotta start. It all starts with teaching. When you refer back to the days of old, especially when people like Ray Leonard was fighting, and you know Thomas Hearns, Hagler, and the rest of them, they had great trainers, and let me change that. They had great teachers of the art of boxing. You had people like Eddie Futch, you had Emmanuel Stewart. I mean, you had Mr. George Washington. You had some legendary teachers of the sport of boxing. And I think that we need to go back to, teaching, because apple tree is an apple tree only because it produces apples. But if you have a peach, a plum, a pear, anything other than an apple in that tree, then you got to question that tree. And so, therefore, you have a lot of put it this way, our sport is one of the only sports that you can come into the gym and stay there for about 20 or 30 minutes, learn the basic boxing lingo, or, hear somebody holler, jab, straight right or left hand, body shot, go watch a video, then the next week you'll consider to be a trainer. You got to go back to the days of old when people took their time out to learn the craft itself. And once you learn the craft, then you are able to teach the craft to the kids. And that's what I think boxing is missing. I think we need better teachers of the sport of boxing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, from my own personal experience, I'm from Denver, Colorado. It's not a big boxing town. You know, every once in a while we get guys like, you know, Mike Alvarado, a little, you know, a bit more crafty guys like Stevie Johnston. But when I first went into the gym, I went into this local gym, and my trainer ended up being a guy who had one fight as a professional, and he was knocked the fuck out in that one fight. And he.
Jeremiah, how many times I got to tell you, you got to watch your language on these shows?
I'm sorry.
Damn, Jeremiah.
I know.
Barry, every show there's an F-bomb dropped by Jeremiah. There's little kids that listen to this, Jeremiah. Come on.
I'm sorry,
Jeremiah,
but Bob.
I forgive you, man.
Hey, anybody who's been in a boxing gym, they don't have virgin ears, okay?
Yeah, but a lot of little kids are listening and want to be boxers, and they hear Jeremiah saying the F word.
Well, I apologize for the children and any parents who might have their kids around with this. But the truth is this guy, he had virtually no experience, didn't know how to teach the fundamentals, just wanted to do pad work. That's one thing I've noticed with a lot of modern trainers, too, is the emphasis on pad work, the flashy pad work. That's all this guy was about, but he considered himself a trainer and had a position there for years. But, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still here.
Jeremiah?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. I think that's a large part of the problem. You know, when you look at, you know, now we have YouTube and the World Wide Web, and, you know, everybody's on there trying to outdo, you know, each other or want to post something that's crazy, and you get a guy maybe throw a 200-piece combination. Now, you and I both know that you're not going to get hit with no 200-piece combination. If you do, you got to be the dumbest cat, you know, since a rock, you know. So for the most part, that's good cardio. But then there come a point in time when you're using those mitts, you have to use those mitts as a tool of teaching. So if you throwing 25 punches or, like, run this combination off, and if you think that's reality, when you go into that ring, you're going to do exactly what you were taught in that gym, and to allow individuals to get away with throwing punches from their waist, chin up in the air, pulling straight back, hands down when you're going inside the combat. A lot of times, man, that is the biggest problem in our sport. Again, we can't go to collegiate football or the NFL, or imagine going to see the Patriots play, and then all of a sudden now you consider yourself to be like Belichick, or try to put yourself on Belichick's team. It's not going to happen, man. And boxing should be no different.
Right, and I think... No, go ahead.
I was getting ready to say it should be some type of criteria, some type of qualification. Same thing with the officiating. I mean, if you and I are watching the fight, you watching one fight, you know, and the crowd is totally seeing another, and you award this guy a round 10-9 round, and you award him the winner of that particular round. Me personally, I think every official, every judge needs to be held accountable for every score that they give. If you get this man or this young lady 10 rounds, this particular round, you need to be able to explain why it was that you awarded them that round. Other than that, you can just go, you know, I like his trunks better, or I like him better, or this is my friend's son or daughter, and you can just go on down the line marking a fight that he won that round, and the round after, and the round after that. And there's no accountability for that.
Right, and not only that, I think it's even worse is in the fact that we see the most veteran judges, the people with the most experience, the ones who have called the most fights. I mean, you see it all the time on HBO, Showtime with you know, big title fights. The most experienced judges are not consistent in the way they judge fights.
You're 100% right. You're 100%.
Hell, a lot of times the older guys are the ones that screw it up, just like they did in the 80s when they were doing it in Vegas.
That's right. I mean, it's simple to me. And it's the same thing like world title fights. Me personally, I think you need to have a pool of maybe 30 judges, and you need to show them all at least 3 fights, footage of 3 fights, world title fights, 1 a blowout, 1 possibly a draw, and the other one swinging in the other direction. And I think the ones, after they go through this course, the ones that hit it, right on the dime, then they move on. The ones that's way out left field, get rid of them. Process of elimination until you boil down to that group of judges that actually know what the hell it is they're looking at.
Jeremiah?
I completely agree. I mean, the vetting process of the judges has to be improved. Well, I mean, we've talked about it, not just the judges, not just the trainers. As the sport as a whole has to up its game, or else it's going to remain a fringe sport. And, like a guy, Rau'shee Warren, Lamont Peterson, their purses are hurting because of it. I mean, this is a global sport, and it could be marketed as such, but unfortunately we don't all have a unified vision of where the sport should be, what it should do, and corruption has taken hold, and again, it's affected the sport entirely. I would say, that we also need to limit the amount of corruption that goes on in the sports. I mean, Rau'shee probably knows this all too well, but anybody who watched the last Olympics, I mean, it's not just at the professional level; it's also at the amateur level. I mean, some of us were left scratching our heads. But how did this guy win? It's just the whole sport as a whole needs to clean itself up.
Yeah, you're right again, man. Because people. And, before, I'm a teacher of the sport of boxing, and I'm always have been an ally to the sport because I love the sport. But nevertheless, it makes you want to turn the channel, man. You're looking for alternatives to the sport because, I'm no different from any other fan. You get tired of the corruption. You get tired of the one-sided fights. You look at networks, some of the big networks, if that network doesn't back that particular fighter, then, how many fights have you seen where a fighter comes in and he's almost whooping the crap out of the opponent, but because he's not affiliated with that same network and that opponent is, they talk more up on the opponent than they do on the fighter that's really winning, and plant that seed in the minds of the viewers and make it seem as though the fighter that's actually winning is the one that's losing.
Right.
All right. So, Barry, tell us a little bit about your the Headbangers Gym, and tell us what makes you different than everybody else, which I think anybody listening now already knows that. But
well, years ago when we started this facility, and I had this conversation yesterday, as a matter of fact, I never forgot what it was to be a youngster living in these streets of D.C. I grew up on the south side of the city in the projects. And, and I had to fend for myself. It was one of them situations where you either got it and adapt and survive, or you were going to be, you were going to get crushed out there by a lot of wolves. And we had a lot of wolves in the projects, man. I mean, waiting for you around the corner, coming home from school or going to school. It was hard to go to the store. It was hard to go to the playground because there was somebody always lurking around the corner ready to press you out. So it was either sink or swim, and I had to learn real fast. And so, when I, got back involved in the sport years ago in '93, I wanted to create a forum, a place that, if you were a young person and you know how it was growing up, when you had something to say and you couldn't say it for fear of maybe your parents or another elder popping you in the mouth, and then after they pop you, first thing that come out of their mouth is, they're grown, so therefore you had to stay in a certain place. Well, this is the one place I wanted to create that any kid came. And when they came, their voice meant something, and it always been somebody here to hear them. So this is not just another gym. And the Headbangers name is not just another name. It's a way of life for us, and it's all about family here. You got people like Rau'shee Warren. You have, of course, Bo Peterson, Adrian Bronner, Austin Trout, Hank Lundy, Bernard Hopkins has trained here before. You got many, many legendary fighters that come to this gym and train, Olympians, both male and female. and they all do one thing and have one thing in common. Before they enter this place, they check their egos at the door. You don't have no room in here for that. Everybody is one heartbeat, one soul, one mind, one goal, and we're one big family.
Well, I can tell you, I think I can speak for Jeremiah here. Barry, it was great to have you on. Rau'shee, it was great to have you on. We wish you the best of luck on your title defense February the 10th. And, I mean, Barry, we'd like to have you back sometime to interview for about 45 minutes or an hour, because I think me and Jeremiah would both enjoy that.
Man, Mike, it'll be my pleasure, to sit here and talk to you and Jeremiah anytime, man. You guys are great, and keep doing what you're doing. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, and Rau'shee, same thing. After you whip this guy's ass, we'll bring you back on again. Jeremiah can drop a couple F-bombs.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I just want to say, Barry, you're speaking my language. Like all this stuff about the corruption and everything, people turning to alternatives like the UFC, for instance. We're losing viewers to them. A lot of old timers getting tired of the sport. But hey, you're speaking my language, and it was wonderful to not only hear from you here, but I love the guest work you've done on some of the shows. Listening to you and Steve Cunningham banter back and forth is music to my ears. For somebody who I think I understand some of the nuances of the sport, probably not like you two, but it's just lovely to hear you two go back and forth, and your lingo and stuff, like hold the phone and all that stuff. But also want to say bye to Rau'shee Warren. I'll certainly be tuning in your fight, and we're rooting for you.
Yep.
Thank you, man.
Hey, and tell Steve Cunningham we said hey. He was actually on the show. I don't think Jeremiah was on that one. I think Dave Sidursky was, but we had Steve on right before he fought Antonio Tarver about a year and a half ago. Steve's a great guy.
He is. He's a beautiful person, and it's crazy because, the first time I've known Steve, since the amateurs, of course, but, with him, and I've been on different telecasts with different guys, but Steve, and he was special, man, and I like the way that Al, which was Al Heyman's thing of putting us on there, you get it from the coach's perspective and you get it from the fighter's perspective, and I think it really, really worked as opposed to putting guys on there that don't have a clue of what's really going on. So you cannot, if you can't relate to it, you can't put it out there.
Yeah, no, and I don't think any boxer can talk about corruption more firsthand than Steve Cunningham either.
Yeah, he's been in some really, really sticky situations, man, and and it's unfortunate, but I mean, you could try to overlook it or act like it don't exist, but come on, man, let's be real. We've all seen it, and hopefully there'll come a day and a time where we won't have to see it anymore.
All right, Jeremiah, any final words?
Nope, said my piece. Just excited to have these guys on.
All right, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and hit a commercial break. We're going to let these guys go, and we'll be back with Lamont Peterson. All right, guys, we're back. Of course, we said we had another special guest tonight. We had the former light welterweight champion of the world, Lamont Peterson. How you doing, Lamont?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great. Pleasure to have you on. I know you got a big fight coming up in Cincinnati, February the 18th. How are you feeling about it? How's the preparation for the upcoming fight gone? I mean, I know you always arrive in great shape, so you want to tell us a little bit of the process, how long you train, what types of stuff you go through?
Yeah, it's a good feeling being back in the ring. Of course, preparation's been going well. I basically stay in the gym this whole time off. So there wasn't much, when I heard, that I was going to fight February 18th, but pretty much is already in shape. Just start, molding the game plan to, that particular fight that I'm fighting. And, but everything's been going good so far. And, it's a big plus, not having to go to 140. Just stopping at 147. It seems like it's going to pay off a bunch.
Do you feel a bit better at 147 than you did at 140?
Yes, definitely, yes. Throughout previous training camps, there will always be where, 158 or so, and I feel strong, I feel good. And then I'll get to maybe 152, 150, then it started changing. And by the time I get down to 140, It's hell. Honestly, it's hell. I'll rehydrate overnight and feel, good enough to fight. But to be able to go through a whole training camp and not have the stress of losing those extra pounds is great.
All right, so any notable sparring partners you've been working with to help you get ready for this next fight on the 18th?
Been working a lot with a contender from New Orleans, babyface, Eric, I'm trying to think of his last name. I think it might be Eric. I can't think of his last name right now. But, he's been getting pretty good. He's a junior middleweight. Been getting pretty good sparring with him. And right now I'm just down to basically one sparring partner. Style is funny. We have a guy from the gym. We call him Changes. He's a young up-and-coming fighter, but style is very similar to David. And so I'm just pretty much doing my rounds with him, trying to prep for February 18th.
All right. And are you David Avenesian, your opponent? His biggest win to date is that over Sugar Shane Mosley. Did you happen to catch that fight? And were you impressed at all? If you did.
Yeah, I did watch that fight, and he's decent. He's a good fighter. He's a pretty good fighter. Even at Shane's age, he still has the experience, and he's crafty. And to get a W over Shane Mosley, it says something. Still to this day.
Yeah. So after Avenesian, what are your plans after that? Assuming you win, which I think you will, but I would think a Danny Garcia rematch has to be close to top priority on your list.
Yeah, but it's a business, and I know it's tough. I can easily say, I want to fight this person, I want to fight this person, that person, but it's a business, and I'll just leave that business side to Barry and to Al, and I'm sure they'll direct me in the right direction.
Yeah, they seem like they've done a good job so far. I mean, you have all sorts of top names under your belt. How long do you actually plan on participating in boxing itself?
It won't be that long. I guess it depends on how. I won't tell you for years or time. I can tell you probably 4 or 5 more fights. However they may come. If it comes 3 this year, 2 this year, or 1 this year, or however it spreads out, I don't know. But I think max I see in my future 5 fights.
So if you're looking at just 4 or 5 more fights, still be a young man, what are your post-retirement plans?
Right now, throughout, boxing, you learn a lot about the body and nutrition and things like that. So I might probably take some time off and not worry about working, do good with the money I earn from boxing. Probably just go to school to be a nutritionist and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, you probably do well in that. I mean, you always show up in great shape. I mean, your stamina against everybody has been tremendous. I mean, hell, I remember when you fought Timothy Bradley, and that's a guy with amazing stamina as well, and you were, right there with him until the end. Against Danny Garcia, you looked fantastic all the way to the end, too. But I'm just going to switch gears a little bit. And, we've all heard of, your struggles of homelessness in your youth. Some of our listeners aren't familiar with the story. I'm personally intrigued by it myself because I was also homeless a number of times as a youngster. Could you just tell, some of the fans a little bit about, growing up homeless and what that was like?
Well, at a young age, first I'm the 10th child of 12. Same mother, same father. My father going, in and out of jail. It was left to my mother to take care. I think at max at one time 10 kids. That's a lot. She didn't have a job, so of course, we were on welfare and things like that, and moving from shelter to shelter. Father would get out, he'd do good. He's an excellent worker when but he had habits, and whenever the habit come back, lose a job and we'll lose a house or lose a place where we're staying. back to shelter homes or, just living from house to family members, house to house, and some nights even, just on the street. It was rough, but honestly, as a kid, it's not as bad as being, an adult. I just can imagine, the pressure that my mother was under now that I'm older and I have kids. I couldn't imagine, going through that as an adult. But as a kid, it taught me a lot of lessons and molded me to be, the person I am now. But just looking back on it, I guess it's just not as bad as, when you're a kid to, as an adult.
All right, so we had Barry Hunter on earlier on the show. Great guy. I mean, if you were coming on, we probably could have talked to him for another couple hours. I think Jeremiah definitely could have.
I'm sure.
How did you meet Mr. Hunter, and how has he changed you and your brother's lives?
I first met Barry through my brother-in-law, who was dating my sister at the time. And, of course, he's, they're married for several years now, and he's my assistant trainer. A lot of people know him as Boogie, or the Pad Man, and he always holds the mitts for us, and he's really good at that. But he used to see me fight on the street a lot. Always would brag about me and say he's gonna bring me to the gym. And one day, he kept telling Barry about me, and so he ended up finding us on the street and brought Barry to us, and it went from there. He took a liking to us. We took a liking to him. He became more of a father figure, more so than just a boxing trainer. So he became a father, honestly. And everything pretty much changed after I met him. He was the only one who would, direct us to go to school, and make sure, we did the right thing. Because at a young age, we were taught different. So, he helped mold us to be, the men that we are now. And I can't thank him enough at this point.
Yeah, he certainly seems like he just seems like a good, down-to-earth, genuine guy. And, again, we appreciate you both coming on the show. But just talk a little bit about your brother, because he's a bit more inactive than you are. I mean, does he have any plans to return to the ring soon?
Yeah, they were telling him to. Maybe, likely he'll fight maybe a week after our fight. But he did get, one fight in April last year. But he's looking to be more active this year, probably much more active than I will. And hopefully, he get that world title shot that he's been waiting for since he turned pro. And I think this is his year that he breaks out and he gets that championship belt.
All right, so your brother's fighting. You're watching. Is that harder on you than actually fighting yourself? Because I know that my son's a football player. He's a quarterback, same thing I played. And when I watch him play, I mean, I'm freaking out, nervous as hell, don't want to see him get hurt. I mean, what's the feelings that run through you when you see your brother up there fighting?
Same thing you just spoke of. It's like when I go in the ring, I kind of know how I'm feeling. I'm feeling good and I'm confident, and I know I'm going to, follow my game plan. With him, I know he's going to do it, but I just don't know how he's feeling that day at that time. So, once I see a few rounds, kind of, my nerves kind of settle in. I'm like, okay, he got it. And then I can relax. But before the fight, and maybe the first 2 rounds, it's hell on me. I'd probably be sweating just as much as him.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it, when you're watching it, you have no control over anything as opposed to when you're in the ring yourself.
Yep. And but once I start seeing good signs and know that he's on his game, then I can relax. All
right. Well, hey, we want to thank you for coming in. We'd love to have you on after you win your fight the 18th. I will definitely be there to watch it. Really, it was an honor having you in. Jeremiah, you got any final words?
No, I'm always excited to have guys like Lamont on. I mean, these guys are down to earth, know how to talk boxing. It's just cool to have you guys on. I mean, and I can relate a little bit, because my struggle might not have been, as hard as yours. But again, I dealt with a little homelessness in my youth as well. Didn't have a father for a long time. And, so again, I can relate a little bit. I can understand how hard it can be. Again, probably not quite as much as you can, but we wish you good luck in your fight coming up.
Thank you.
We've seen you against, many of the best fighters out there. You got wins over Ron, Diaz. You've done some good things in the ring. We love your versatility. You can box and fight a bit. Again, you always come up prepared. Again, we just want to wish you good luck and have fun out there.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot, Lamont.
Anytime, like you say, after the fight, you want to do a follow-up interview, I'm all for it.
Yeah, then that way we can keep you on here a little bit longer. I know you got to train, so I know you got to get up early in the morning. So we wish you the best with training, and hopefully I'll be sitting there watching you kick somebody or David Evanesian's butt on February the 18th.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks a lot, Lamont.
All right.
All right, Jeremiah, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We will be back Thursday night to talk about the fights that happened this last weekend, which there was 3 really good fights, Jeremiah.
Oh, man, it was a good weekend. They put the only problem I had is that they had to conflict with my schedule. They had to put it on the same damn night. They should have separated these weekends.
But this is the thing. I got lucky because I forgot there was 2 separate cards on, and I recorded it with my DVR, but I always have a DVR set up to tape any boxing that comes on Showtime or HBO. And I watched the fights on Showtime, Frampton, Santa Cruz, which you were completely wrong on, by the way, but I'm going to let that go. Because I think I was, too.
Hey,
but
I picked Garcia to win.
I watched the 2 fights, though, and I get up the next morning, and I take my son down, we work out, I come back, it's like noon, there's no football on, so I'm pretty bummed anyways, because who the hell wants to watch basketball? But I go through my little DVR thing, and I say, well, there was a fight last night, and it's Francisco Vargas, so I know it's going to be like one of those Arturo Gatti fights. So I start watching it, and the first fight, it was an amazing fight. And I'm thinking, well, heck, I'm starting to get a little bit bored getting ready for the second fight because I figure it can't be as good as the first fight. We're about 4 rounds in, and I'm like, this fight's better than the fight I just watched.
Oh, they're barn burners, man. I loved it.
And, Vargas, I think his career is pretty much – and that referee should have stopped. They should have stopped that fight 2 or 3 rounds earlier. When you're taking a whole Q-tip and putting it up against a guy's ear and the cut swallows up the toothpick, it's probably time to stop the fight.
Yeah, that's probably a good indicator. But yeah, we'll get more to this next week. But, yeah, they're both fantastic. Vargas, to me, looked a little worse for wear, though. I think he's taken 1 too many punches already.
Yeah, but that was it Burktel?
Burktel? Yeah.
Yeah, Burktel. Burktel looked good.
Yeah,
I don't think he's a Vasily Lomachenko, but he looked good. But we will talk about that Thursday night, so you guys can come back here and check that out. Got a few more interviews planned over the next few weeks. Things are picking up here. We appreciate anybody that's listening in. Jeremiah, you got any final closing words?
I just want to thank our guests again tonight. We're fantastic. Probably the best guests we've had on so far. I loved having them on, especially Barry. Barry, please come on sometime. You can call my personal phone if you like to, and we can just chit-chat.
Well, I can tell you this. I'm calling Barry as soon as we're off here. So.
Yeah, that works. But, yeah, I was happy to have all of them on. The only thing I wish is that maybe when Lamont comes on, he can bring his brother on as well. I'd like to have Adrian, too.
Yeah, they have a great story to tell. But, on top of that, how many times do you get brothers that are world-class fighters?
Exactly. It's a rarity.
I can count a handful of times, and that's about it. But both of them are great fighters. It was a complete honor to have everybody on tonight. Don't want to forget Rau'shee Warren. Anytime you're the champion of the world, you definitely need to be mentioned also. And I only live like 20 minutes from where he lives from, so I always cheer for Rau'shee also. Barry Hunter. I mean, it was just it was a great show. Glad everybody listened in. At least I thought it was a great show. But
yeah,
so we're going to go ahead and wrap. Go ahead.
Let me just say one word about Rau'shee real quick. This is a guy the American public should pay a bit more attention to because, you know, he had such strong amateur credentials, and he's such a highly skilled fighter. I mean, a lot of these American amateurs, they're not able to hang with some of the international guys. I mean, we've seen how poor they've done lately in the last few Olympics, but Rau'shee Warren is right up there with him. I mean, you look at his fight against Rigondeaux, and it's a close points loss, you know, to Rigondeaux, one of the greatest amateurs ever. But Warren, we wish him good luck. He's got a good fight on his hands too. Again, just happy to have him on.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. Remind everybody to check out thegruelingtruth.net. We got our Super Bowl preview show on Wednesday night, which that'll have myself, Brian Schmidt, Matt Andrews Scavage, and then we got special guests. We got Mark Cooper, who was a starting offensive lineman for the Denver Broncos and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, protected John Elway during the 80s. We'll also have on Gary Burley, former Cincinnati Bengal and Atlanta Falcon, one of the top interior defensive linemen of the decade of the 70s. And we will have Louise Sharp, who was a Pro Bowl offensive lineman and was just recently named one of the 20 greatest Cardinals in history. So that'll be our Super Bowl preview show. And tomorrow night, Tuesday night, we'll have one of the greatest Atlanta Falcons of all time, William Andrews, running back during the early 80s. His career was sidetracked, cut short by an injury. But Mr. Andrews will be on with us tonight or tomorrow night to talk about his career and to talk a little bit about the upcoming Super Bowl. So make sure you check out all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Music, TuneIn, anywhere you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.